Today, we're diving into a really scandalous idea, one that feels like it could be ripped from today's headlines, but it's actually from the 17th century, all packed into one of the most groundbreaking plays you've probably never heard of.
So let's just jump right in with this question. And look, this isn't some modern edgy hot take. This is the central, explosive argument from a revolutionary play written all the way back in 1677. It's a question that forces us to look at an institution like marriage in a completely different and maybe slightly uncomfortable light.
To really get why this question was so shocking, you have to meet the woman who had the guts to ask it in the first place, the absolutely trailblazing Aphra Behn.
I mean, you can't overstate what a huge deal this was. For a woman to actually earn a living from her own mind, let alone to publish work that openly criticized society, well, that was a massive act of defiance. Just the fact that Aphra Behn had a public voice was considered scandalous all on its own.
So audiences would come to see her most famous play, The Rover, expecting some witty banter and a bit of romance, but Behn was so clever, she used the disguise of a comedy to deliver something way more subversive, and she lands this biting critique through one of literature's most unforgettable characters. And this is where the whole argument comes to life, through the character of Angelica Bianca, a famous and, believe it or not, powerful courtesan. Angelica isn't just some throwaway character. She is the absolute intellectual and moral center of the play. See, she doesn't just sell her company. What she's really selling is this powerful, brutally honest argument that just exposes the hypocrisy of the entire social structure around her.
And with a line like this, wow, she just perfectly calls out the insane double standard of her time. She's pointing out how the same system of exchange brings men glory for playing the field, but it completely condemns women for doing the exact same thing.
So here's the real kicker, the core of her radical view. She's essentially saying, sure, you shame my profession, but at least it's honest. As you can see here, she openly controls the transaction. She sets her own price. And in a really strange way, this gives her an agency, a form of autonomy, that the so-called virtuous women who are trapped in the marriage market, they simply don't have.
And to really hammer this point home, Behn does something brilliant. She contrasts Angelica's worldview with the fate of a much more traditional noblewoman, a character named Florinda. Now, Florinda is the picture of what a proper lady should be. She's virtuous, she's beautiful, she's even in love. But here's the thing, none of that matters. Her body, her future, her happiness, they're all just assets in a business negotiation between the men in her family.
You really can't get much clearer than that. Her own brother's words just lay it all out. This isn't about love, it's about his fortune. Florinda is basically just a piece of property to be traded for the highest price. It's pretty chilling.
And this comparison right here, this is the linchpin of Behn's entire argument. It forces the audience to stop and ask, okay, wait a minute, who is really being exploited here? The woman who openly controls her own transaction, or the one being sold off by her family under the cover of virtue? All of a sudden, those moral lines get incredibly blurry. But the play gets even more complex, because what happens when Angelica, this master of commerce, tries to throw out her own cynical rulebook for something real, for love?
Well, what happens is a tragedy. And the most ironic part is that her downfall actually proves her original point. She starts with all this power, right? Because she controls the transaction. But then she surrenders it all when she falls for this Rover, Wilmore, and what happens? He betrays her. In a world governed by these economics, her emotional vulnerability becomes a liability, and she loses absolutely everything.
This line is just devastating. This isn't just the cry of a jealous lover. It's so much deeper. It's the painful realization of a woman who understands that true, sincere love can't possibly survive in a world that only knows how to value her as a commodity. Her heart, which she gave away for free, has no market value. So why does this 350-year-old play still feel so electric, so relevant? Well, let's zoom out and look at its lasting legacy.
What Aphra Behn does here is truly radical. She takes a character type that in any other play would just be an object of desire or a moral punching bag, and she transforms her into a philosopher. Angelica becomes the powerful, undeniable voice of reason in the entire play.
It's really no surprise that modern critics see Angelica as one of the very first feminist figures in English drama. She's articulating these incredibly complex ideas about sexual economics and patriarchal control centuries ahead of her time. Just by speaking her truth on stage, she was performing the very right to speak that future feminists would spend generations fighting for. And that's the final thought I want to leave you with. In our modern world of social media influencers and personal brands, where authenticity and value are constantly being negotiated online, aren't we still grappling with Aphra Behn's scandalous question from 1677? Are we still debating the price of a woman's value?